Shh, Barrett, let's go. Wait, there's a Crimson Fleet guard right over there. Barrett, what are you doing? Why are you just standing there?
Squeak!
God damn it. Oh, hello there, shopkeeper. Yes, I would like to trade in this futuristic sci-fi weaponry for some credits. What do you have on offer?
Oh, I see you're part of the Freestyle Collective. Well, in that case, I can give you a discount. Oh, I'm sorry, you don't have enough credits. Please return to us in 48 hours, when our magical bullshit has refilled.
How's it going? Welcome back to another great video with the majestic host, the Savior. Yes, that's right, I'm back here. I'm not sure why I'm here, but I'm here because this will probably be one of my last videos of this year, and I doubt this video is going to get much attention. I doubt the YouTube algorithm will bless it with its holiness, and I know there are so many retrospective, analytical YouTubers out there, usually faceless and very monotone in voice. They pretty much all sound the same, but now you can find so many Starfield critiques on YouTube. There's a dime a dozen, okay? And I'm not here to waste your time, okay? I don't want to add, noise to the conversation. I don't want to repeat things. And, I've watched a few of these videos, Nakey Jakey's being my favorite, of course. And some of them are just ridiculous. They go on for like 8 hours criticizing Starfield. But I want to make this video for my own sanity. And I think I have a different perspective than most. So I'm not going to, regurgitate content here. I'm going to be giving you my own perspective and my critique of Starfield, okay? I just have to make this video because 2023, let's just get it over and done with. Let's just say it. This year has actually been good for video games, which is pretty rare to say because the industry has been lacking quite a lot in the last 5 years or so, with a lot of broken releases from AAA studios. Also, calm down YouTube, okay? This is a goddamn tripod. It's safe to say that the gaming industry was looking pretty bad, but this year has finally restored my faith in video games, so that's a good thing. But there's one game that I was so looking forward to, and I wasn't the only one, and I feel kind of ashamed to admit that. Yes, I was hyped about Starfield. The months leading up to it, I was pretty much excited about any type of Starfield news that I could find, and of course the YouTubers putting out news, okay, they were having a great old time because they were making loads of money off of lots of people's hype, and I wasn't one of them, but internally I was hyped myself. I didn't talk about it much, but I was very excited for Starfield, and yeah, pretty much any information I was out looking for, and I saw the leaked gameplay and I was even more excited. My imagination just went crazy, okay? Because I'm a huge goddamn nerd, if you haven't noticed already, and the idea of an open world galaxy, okay, made by the same people who have made my favorite video games in the past, okay? And no, I'm not talking about Skyrim, okay? I don't even like Skyrim that much, and I know that's quite a shocker. Now, I don't hate Skyrim, it's not a bad game, I do like it, I played it for goddamn way too long, but it's not my favorite Bethesda game. No, my favorite Bethesda game is Fallout 3, okay? And I know a lot of people don't like it for some reason. Yes, it hasn't aged that well now, but when it first came out, that game blew my goddamn mind. And to this day, the atmosphere, the world setting that they created still holds up. Yes, it was built upon a different franchise, it wasn't Bethesda's own franchise, but still they made Fallout into a 3D video game, and to me it was absolutely perfect. I love the aesthetic, I love what they did with it. Every inch of that world had something interesting to say, some new locations to discover, a story being told, and you actually had choices and consequences. Now, New Vegas, of course, blew it out of the water, but still, for its time, and still, compared to so many other RPGs in modern day gaming, it actually gives you real choice and consequences. Megaton just being a prime example of a big choice in that game. But sadly, I did let hype get to me, and Todd Howard, okay, he is such a snake. He's such a... oh, I just want to squeeze him in his tight little leather jacket. Loading screens. Say what you will about him, but he is charismatic, okay? And he knows how to be a salesman. And I should have known from the previous things that were released by Bethesda, like Fallout 76, for example, and Fallout 4 even, because to me that was pretty terrible. It's not a great game, but it's not a bad game, it's just not a good Fallout game. But I should have known that we cannot trust Todd Howard, but this was supposed to be his childhood dream. When I watched the podcast with him and Lex Friedman, I was even more excited because it seemed like he was super passionate about this game, and I think he actually is, but you know what Todd's like, okay? He gets carried away and he can just make up a whole lot of shit, pretty much. And I was still being cautious. I did try and set my expectations. I was going in thinking, okay, this is going to be like Skyrim, okay? Don't expect it to be amazing. Don't expect this to be a proper RPG like Fallout New Vegas. Just expect it to be Skyrim in space. But when it turned out, it wasn't even Skyrim in space. But after around 50 hours or so, I realized, okay, this isn't even Skyrim in space. It's something different, not something that I think I really enjoy. Now, don't get me wrong, there are moments of this game that I absolutely love, okay? But the majority of the time feels like I'm just wasting time. As you get older, you find that using your time more wisely is very important, and I love video games, and I love to get immersed in video games, but when I feel a video game is wasting my time, that I'm not getting value from something that I'm interacting with. I'm not getting knowledge, I'm not getting enjoyment, because it feels like work, it feels like busy work. If it feels like that, if a game starts to make me feel that way, then I know there's no hope. So, I have opinions too. If you are new to the channel, I will just quickly say, please do consider subscribing. It would mean so much to me, you have no idea. I put so much work into all of my videos. This year has been a great year for the channel. We've seen a lot of new subscribers come to the channel, which I'm very grateful for, but please help me get to 10,000 subscribers. We are so close, and it would just mean everything to me. Become a wise one. Just subscribe to this community. You will not regret it. If you love early reviews, you like in-depth video essays on games or older games, or if you like more intellectual type content, I discuss my ideas around philosophy and basically the kind of future dystopia that we are slowly edging towards in my kind of technology series as well. So we cover a lot of things on this channel, so do consider subscribing. It would mean a lot to me. And if you do want to support me, do check out my music on Spotify, or just sling me a donation on YouTube or PayPal. That's how I can keep doing this. I appreciate it a lot. And next year I will be releasing a Patreon after 10,000. So thank you so much, and do join the channel if you are new. So I absolutely love Fallout 3. It is definitely in the top 5 of my video games of all time. And I think Bethesda are very good at creating atmosphere and an interesting world space with interesting lore. And they used to be good quality writers, but they kind of forgot about that after Fallout 4. But still, it's such a magical game to me, and I can never get tired of it. So of course I was very looking forward to Starfield. And I really expected Starfield to be not revolutionary. I still expected it to be a Bethesda game, even with the new Creation Engine 2. What Starfield turned out to be was a mashup of creative ideas with good intentions behind them, but their execution was just terrible, if you ask me. Now, I put in a lot of hours into Starfield. I was so amazed by it to begin with, and I looked past the Bethesda jank, the fact that all of the NPCs were just like these weird alien creatures, the fact that the layout was confusing and there were no, in-city maps or anything like that. it was all a little bit confusing to me, but I looked past it all, and I even looked past the, menus, okay? I tried to play as immersive as possible, get into my ship every single time, land and take off all inside of my ship. I wouldn't fast travel anywhere, but it got to a point where I just realized, what am I doing? I'm wasting time. I'm just watching a cutscene over and over and over again. I'm not doing any of these things myself. I'm not playing the game myself, okay? I'm literally watching a loading screen. And I will just quickly make this point, but it's been done to death already. The loading screens in this game are just terrible. They are inexcusable for a game that is being made and released in 2023, okay? Bethesda was outdated before, but it was, overlooked because of the amazing world design. But here, everything has a loading screen. It doesn't make any sense. I don't understand why Bethesda, with their new up-to-date engine, can't handle areas that aren't separated by a loading screen. It just breaks all immersion, and it just makes it feel like it's all just kind of like a Lego set, kind of awkwardly crammed together. It doesn't feel organic, and that's a real shame. Skyrim and Fallout both have loading screens. Of course, they are older games, so it is more excusable. The difference with Skyrim and Fallout is they have this giant open world that doesn't really have any loading screens. When you go into a dungeon or you go into a building, then yes, there is a small loading screen, but they have these giant open areas. And Starfield is supposed to have that as well, and it does on the planets that you can land in. You have this huge square mileage that you can explore. But the problem with Starfield, and I think this is the main issue with Starfield, is the exploration just doesn't feel good. There are you get some amazing, beautiful designs in Starfield. The art style behind it and the graphics, I think, are really good. And I do love discovering new worlds. But the problem with this randomly generated content is it just gets boring. It just feels the same after some time. And I don't want to engage with it. It's just a waste of time. It's just like a shooting gallery. And I thought what was going to happen was they were going to, randomly generate planets, but then these handcrafted locations, these handcrafted dungeons would be randomly placed on the planets. But no, they were super lazy, and they just made, a couple of randomly generated dungeons and stuff, and then these same dungeons would just be repeated on every single planet pretty much. So I was so disappointed with that when I realized, like, oh, okay, they said they made handcrafted content, they didn't mean on the random planet. So what's the point of exploring if everything that you discover is pretty much the same? So now let's quickly talk about the gameplay in Starfield for this Starfield critique. And by the way, if you are wondering, should you play Starfield in 2024, because that's kind of why I'm making this Starfield video essay or Starfield analysis, is basically to save people time. If they're thinking about playing Starfield in 2024, the roadmap has already been released, and the updates from Bethesda are just completely laughable. They're adding in-game maps, and that apparently is going to take pretty much a whole year to implement. I mean, it's just insane. I just feel like Bethesda have completely lost it. The money and the fame just went to the company's head, especially Todd Howard, and they just expect modders to fix everything. They just expect to release broken games, and it's just, it's embarrassing, to be honest. And I don't think mods will save Starfield, by the way, not like other Bethesda games, because this game needs to be interesting to begin with, and I don't think modders will be making enough content for Starfield because the lore, the world design, okay, isn't as interesting. So we're going to talk about that, but first let's quickly talk about the gameplay. The gameplay itself is very, very basic, and that's something that really holds it back. That's, to me, what really killed Starfield as well, was the gameplay loop, okay? So you get a quest. It's not like the normal exploration quest that you would find in Fallout or Skyrim, where you're going from one location to the next and you organically discover a different location and a different NPC, and then you get caught up in that side quest. It's nothing like that, okay? You're exploring in these open cities, okay, these handcrafted cities, and there's not enough of them, especially in a galaxy this big, 1,000 planets, and there's like 3 or 4 main cities. It doesn't make any sense. The fact that one planet has one city is just ridiculous. It just doesn't make any sense. And there are times where you can get truly immersed into this, and going to, a desolate planet and the skybox, for music, for ambience, all of that has been nailed because Bethesda are good at that. But they just went way too big, and I don't think even if they just focused on a few smaller planets that Starfield would be fixed. I don't think it's a size issue. The fact is, a lot of Starfield just feels like padding, and that's the main problem. So the gameplay is you hear about a location, and then you have to plot a course to that location, which destroys the sense of discovery, especially since getting there is basically loading screen or fast traveling, and flying around for a little bit and then landing on this planet, which by the way you don't do, of course, because it's all done by loading screens, okay? And then you get to this location, you shoot some bad guys, or you do a conversation, and all of that was super engaging to me to begin with because I thought, wow, they've actually made this a proper RPG. But then I realized that it's not a real RPG because the choices that you make don't exactly matter. Sometimes they do, but a lot of the time it's just flavor. It's just flavor text. It's not like, The Witcher. It's not like Fallout 3. It's not like New Vegas. These are just flavor text, okay? And you can roleplay a little bit, but in the end it doesn't matter. And I thought when I first played this, I was very excited about the persuasion mechanics. I thought, wow, they actually react depending on, what's going on, the kind of circumstance, and you have to kind of read what's going on in that situation and get lucky. But no, it's all just randomly, not randomly generated, but it's just a random dice throw, pretty much. And it's just so ridiculous that sometimes an option comes up that makes zero goddamn sense, and for some reason that can persuade the person. That's just so immersion breaking. So the gameplay, like I said, you get a quest, you go to the location, and it's not organic in the least, and then you just shoot a bunch of people, or you say a bunch of bullshit that doesn't actually mean anything, collect some loot, and that's it. But what really broke Starfield for me, what really pissed me off after like 50 hours, I was still enjoying it around 30 hours, but then it started to dawn on me, hang on, this doesn't quite add up, was the fact that everything is a goddamn menu, and the UI is so badly done, okay? It's basically a micromanagement simulator. Between your inventory and your ship's inventory, the amount of time that you spend just transferring goddamn bullshit items back and forth, it's just like the worst design I've ever seen in a video game. It's just so outdated. I can't believe this was actually made in 2023. And as much as I want to love Starfield, and as much as there were times that I really did feel immersed, and I did feel like this space explorer, because the idea of Starfield sounds so amazing, an open galaxy that you can explore, you can roleplay as, whatever you want, a space pirate, a smuggler, whatever. But the execution was just so bad. And the gunplay, the thing that holds this game together, because that's what you will be doing most of the time, is just lazy. It's just boring. There's no interesting mechanic. There aren't limbs that come off. There isn't like a dismember system. There are no VATs. There's no special abilities that you can upgrade. And, as you get further into the skill progression, the gunplay becomes more interesting. You can do like dual wielding or some other interesting, perk mechanic. No, nothing like that. And finally, the thing that really puts the nail in the coffin for Starfield, I would say, is the world design, the actual lore of this universe. I tried so hard to get invested in this. I, read up on the history, but it's just, it feels like it's been stitched together. The same way the gameplay feels like it's been stitched together, the lore and the world building of Starfield feels like it's been stitched together. And that was the most disappointing thing, because I always felt like Bethesda were good at creating, these worlds, but actually, when you think about it, they weren't, okay? The Elder Scrolls, they got super lucky with, and yeah, I'll give them that. But Fallout, it wasn't even theirs to begin with, And with Starfield, it just shows they don't know how to create an interesting sci-fi universe or an interesting world design. And it was a real letdown. I was so excited about the idea of these different cults. You know, the Red Mile, I thought that was going to be like a cool side game by itself, like a goddamn Maze Runner kind of planet, but it just turned out to be this most lazy this just like walk in a straight line and shoot some aliens and that's it type of thing. It just had so much promise, so much potential, and I think that's why so many people were let down by Starfield. It's not 100% Bethesda's fault, because when you're saying you're creating a massive game like this, it's the same thing happened with No Man's Sky. Of course, there are just too many expectations to meet, but the fact that it couldn't even be a good Bethesda game, I think that's the thing that really just put the nail in the coffin for Starfield. The gameplay was lazy. The way exploration was handled just doesn't make any sense when you have an engine like this, that everything has to be stitched together, so it doesn't feel organic at the least, so it doesn't ever feel like you're exploring space. So what the fuck is the point of it? The writing at times is good and mature, at times it just feels like it's there to pad out the game, that it's there to waste your time. A lot of the dialogue options are just like regurgitated, points that the NPC has already said, and the choices that you think that actually matter, usually they don't, and if they do matter, it's only within, a focused questline story, and then that has no implication to the rest of the world. It's not like New Vegas where all of these factions react to you. You can literally join every single fucking faction in Starfield at the same time. It just doesn't matter. I just don't know what happened. I don't know what happened with Starfield. It's a real shame, because I was really looking forward to this game, but I just think Bethesda, they got caught up so much in their own bullshit with the success of Skyrim, and they thought they could just stitch together, like kind of mini Skyrims, but it doesn't work that way. And if the randomly generated content isn't fulfilling, doesn't have any value or sustenance to it whatsoever, then of course no one's going to engage with that. If the, building mechanics aren't fun, or they don't actually really net you anything, apart from resources, if you can't build up a community or have like a kind of sim-like, mini game, what's the point of that as well? The ship building, that was fun. I absolutely loved customizing my ship, but then you have this whole open galaxy and then only a small couple of locations that are handcrafted, and they're mostly filled with like dead NPCs. It's just a clusterfuck of ideas pretty much. And there were times where quests actually felt really cool, or you meet an interesting NPC and you recruit them into your crew. There are ideas in this game that is actually fun, that feels like you're building like your own Star Trek kind of crew and all that kind of stuff. But the execution is just so bad. Okay, so let's just quickly end this Starfield critique with my biggest gripes about this game, and why I feel like Starfield failed and why Starfield is bad. And like I said, it's a real shame to say all of this, but I think the biggest problem is it feels like a very old game. And I know a lot of people say, "Ooh, this game feels old," or "this game feels outdated," but they can't really explain what they mean. Obviously, you can look at the loading screens and the way, like, the fact that you can't actually land on planets properly and say that it's old and dated because the engine just can't handle it. But it's not just that, and it's not just like the lifeless NPCs and stuff like that. It's the way this game tries to simulate a realistic world that it fails at. And when you're trying to do that on a galactic scale, it's even more funny. Because in Fallout, in Skyrim, it's immersive because of the lore, the history, the different factions and tribes that all believe something different, and the way you interact and explore organically. That's what makes it feel lived in and believable, even if the NPCs are dumb as shit and they say the same thing over and over again. But the thing is, Starfield doesn't have many of these, fleshed out NPCs, and the ones that do come with you, they feel like lifeless robots. And in a game in 2023, when you're in a ship with your companion and you hear the same dialogue line over and over and over again. The amount of times I hear the cowboy guy, Sam, or whatever the hell his name is, who could have been an interesting character, say the same shit to his daughter as I'm, traveling from one planet to the next. That kills all immersion to me. The fact that these NPCs behave so much like NPCs just pulls you out of the experience. And I think that's a big problem, whenever you're trying to do something cool, like sneak into a base, and then Barrett's just behind you, just standing right out in the middle of the open, when literally you're supposed to be sneaking into this top military secret facility, and you have to, sneak around, or you have to dress up as a security guard, and yes, that's the only time you can do something cool like that. There's no disguise mechanic like in Fallout New Vegas or anything, but Barrett is just like following you, and no one asks any questions, because why would they? This truly does feel like a Lego set, but not in the way that you're building from the same Lego set. One can be a Lego set from Harry Potter, or the other could be a Lego set from Star Wars, or another Lego set could be from Lord of the Rings, but you're combining all of these things and they don't quite fit together, but somehow you create this kind of monstrosity, which is Starfield. And like I said, this game at times can be truly the space fantasy role-playing game that we all wanted, okay? When you're on a desolate planet and there's some kind of radiation storm. But the thing is, it just never doubles down on that fantasy, on that role-playing, because all of the systems just feel so formulaic and restrictive in a game that's supposed to be open and, you choose your own adventure. That's the problem with Starfield, I would say. There are times where you can really feel something in Starfield just because of the ambience and the atmosphere being on this desolate planet, but then you realize and you wake up to the reality that actually I'm very limited in my actions. I can't kill any NPC that I want. I have to play the game the way Bethesda wants me to play it. It's very clear they have a morality bias. You can't be the bad guy in this game. A lot of the writing is very, like slapping your wrist, like, no, you can't do that, or you're too naughty. A lot of the systems don't make sense, like going to jail, the bounty system, the factions don't make any sense. And when you realize that, and then you look at the actual story and the world building of this game, and I'm not talking about the main story, which goes into a whole complicated multiverse dimension thing, which doesn't make much sense if you look at it closely, but I'm just talking about the world design that they built here. The fact that it doesn't make much sense, and it doesn't really feel like there's a history to it. It doesn't really feel like these places have strong identities. You could tell Bethesda really wanted to create, like a neon cyberpunk world and a kind of Firefly-inspired sci-fi, but it all feels forced. It doesn't feel organic. And when you combine all of these elements together, you realize that Starfield has good intentions. It's taken a lot of inspiration from good quality sci-fi, but it's just mixed them all in this broken pot of sludge, and this kind of came out. And at times there are things to enjoy about it, but then you realize all of this and you just can't get past it after that. And since then I just haven't installed it, I haven't played it again. It's a real shame because this type of game should exist, and I really hope that a company does tackle it in the future. But honestly, I think no company, not even CD Projekt Red or anyone in the industry, could make a game like this at the moment. The technology that we have just isn't good enough at the moment, and it's just so weird that Bethesda of all people tried to tackle this, and they broke what made their game special in the first place. Because when I think about how a game like Fallout 3 makes me feel, just randomly discovering these weird locations, interacting with the different tribes, the different factions, the fact that each faction or group or settlement, and that would be planets or cultures in Starfield's case, all have unique identities, and you as the player can actually change the outcome of these factions, of these groups, and act as a middleman. But in Starfield, most of the time it feels like you're just a courier, just basically delivering messages. It doesn't ever feel like you have any weight to what's going on around you, or you are, kind of changing how this universe, this galaxy operates. It takes the fundamental elements of a Bethesda game, but strips basically all value and impact and weight and meaning from those games. especially with how it handles exploration, because that is a big part of what makes it feel magical and makes it feel organic. And to me, that is why Starfield fails. And that is my Starfield critique. I do hope you enjoyed this video. It's very difficult to get all of my thoughts down and exactly my problems with Starfield, and I didn't want to just talk about all of the stuff that everyone else has already talked about, so I hope you found something new in this video. To me, it was always the world building that made these games feel so realized and so organic, and that you actually had a place in this world. Starfield doesn't feel like that whatsoever. It doesn't feel like you are a part of this ecosystem, and that's why Starfield fails.